Hey guys! Welcome back to another episode of Art Journal Thursday, where we get creative every single Thursday here on this channel. And today, I'm going to show you how to paint a cherry blossom tree scenery with acrylics step by step that is perfect for beginners. The first thing we want to do is applying washi or masking tape around the edges to create a frame. You guys have seen me doing that in almost every painting video, but I do believe this white frame makes a huge difference in the way the painting looks in the end. Next, you want to add a few guidelines onto the paper so we know where we will add the sky, the trees, and the mountains for our scenery. For this painting, I'm using a reference picture from an anime because I really like the colors and the dreamy feel to it. Let's start with the sky first. Here I'm going to use blue and white acrylic paint. Mix a little bit of blue with the white acrylic paint to create a really subtle shade of blue. This is going to be the overall shade for the sky. Add it to the area above your guideline and distribute the paint evenly. Here I'm using a flat brush because it really allows you to distribute the paint really smoothly and evenly. To make the sky look more realistic, we can also play around with different shades of blue. Usually, the further the area of the blue sky is, the lighter the shade becomes. So I focused on keeping the lower area really airy and light by using more white than blue, and then I added more blue colored paint when I was moving upwards. But to keep everything more three-dimensional and interesting, I still blended in white colored acrylic paint from time to time. From here, we can start adding a few clouds by using a light mixture of white and blue colored paint. To keep the clouds really fluffy, I just dabbed on the paint while creating a random shape that looks like a cloud. This way we have a few areas that are lighter and darker, which will make the cloud look really three-dimensional later. Just don't think too much. This is going to be the first layer of our clouds. While the sky is drying, we can start adding the hills and mountains right below. Here I will be using green, black, and blue colored paint to create this greenish blue shade. And then with my flat brush, I went ahead and loosely followed my guidelines. The great thing about the flat brush is not only you get a really nice application of paint, but you can create nice and clean edges. Once you created the general line for the hills, you can go ahead and fill in the area using some light blue paint. Remember that the areas that are further away or that get more light are brighter. So here I focused on making the area on the left darker and the area on the right a bit brighter because this area is further away. But don't try to make it look super accurately or anything, we can still go back later and adjust everything. The great thing about acrylic paint is that you can just paint over it if you don't like something and then use the texture of the dry paint for your advantage because it will help you to create a really nice texture in your painting. Okay, once we have the first layer of our hills and mountains, we can move on to the trees below them. Here I will be using green, yellow, and my other dark colored paints to create different shades of green. Basically, the way I will create trees in this painting is by dabbing a bristle brush all over the area in a curvy shape while switching between lighter and darker shades. Don't just dab the paint randomly, but rather try to recreate the round shape of a tree with its leaves. This will not only make the process of painting trees so much easier, but it will also make the trees look more realistic in a super easy way. But before we spend too much time coloring every spot, cover the whole area with a light shade of green colored paint and then work your way out from here. You can mix more yellow and blue to the mixture and really bring dimension to the painting. I wanted to create trees that are somewhere below between the hills, but as you can see now, you can also just keep it like that if you want to create a path with grass next to it. To mute the colors and to add the dreamy effect I was talking about in the beginning, you can use a little bit of white colored paint. This will not only move the area more into the background, but it will also add more variety to the painting. Also, try to use just enough paint on your brush to really get the pattern of the bristles. If you use too much, you might end up having just a blob of paint that will make it more difficult to distribute the paint the way you want it. Once the green area has dried, we can move on and add the cherry trees in between. Here I will be using red, white and a little bit of blue color paint to make the shade slightly purple. Here you just want to apply the paint the same way as the other green trees. Since we also want to make them look more three-dimensional, we need to layer up the paint as well. We started with a darker shade and now we can dab on a lighter shade of pink to the upper areas while leaving out some areas to keep the shadows. For the lighter shades, I only used red and white colored acrylic paint. The same goes for the tree on the right side. Here I created a few guidelines using black colored paint and then repeated the same steps. I started with a darker shade of pink and then built up the cherry blossoms using lighter shades each time while leaving out some areas to achieve the three-dimensional look. And from here you can really play around and adjust the way you like it. If you find something that looks too dark or it needs more highlights, just add them until you're happy. Remember to apply the paint in a rather round shape, so not just randomly. Really try to follow the round shape of a tree and its branches that are covered with the cherry blossoms. We can also go back to the sky and add more white acrylic paint on top to make the clouds more three-dimensional. Here I simply added more white paint to the upper areas of each cloud to move the more transparent shades more to the background. To see what you can adjust better, you can also remove the tape first. What also helps me is to take pictures, look through different screens under the picture to really get another perspective. If we stare onto our paintings too much, we kind of get blind and don't see things that we could change. So it's always good to either take a break or use different ways to look at your artwork. For my painting, I made the colors a little bit brighter, added a few lines to the tree to create branches, and then I used a small brush to add more details to the trees one dab at a time. By the way, if you want, you can also add an additional dreamy effect to your artwork by adding a really light layer of white acrylic paint. But before you start, make sure the paint has dried, and then you can use your brush to carefully blend a light layer of white paint on top. I used this technique on the right side of the painting to really move the area further away. This is optional, but I really like the effect it gave to the overall painting. I also did the same to the mountains and the hills in the background and added a lighter layer to the areas that get more light. This way we make the mountains in the background even more three-dimensional. And this is the final result. What do you guys think? If you want to learn how to paint another simple, nature-inspired scenery, you can check out my video right here. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and to click on the bell to get notified whenever I upload a new video on Thursdays and on Saturdays. Thank you so much for watching guys, have a wonderful day, and I will see you soon. Bye!